Hello and welcome to another episode of Voice from the Desert. This is Ariel. Let us begin immediately going to the Word of God. We're going to be reading on Psalm 18. We're reading from the CSB, and we start on verse 1. I love you, Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer, my God, my rock where I seek refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I call to the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and I was saved from my enemies. The ropes of death were wrapped around me. The torrents of destruction terrified me. The ropes of Sheol entangled me. The snares of death confronted me. I called to the Lord in my distress, and I cried to my God for help. From his temple he heard my voice, and my cry to him reached his ears. I'm going to stop there for now. That was on verse 6. We read from 1 to 6. And if you don't know much of Bible history, I'll give you like the short end version of this. Well, in the title of the psalm itself, it says, of the servant of the Lord David, who spoke the words of this song to the Lord in the day the Lord rescued him from the grasp of all his enemies, from the power of Saul. Basically, if you don't know David's story, I mean, you probably do because of the house of David, but spoilers for those of you who have not gotten to this point of the story. David was a soldier for Saul, and then Saul became jealous of David and wanted him dead. So David had no choice but to run for his life. So his youth, his young age, between his 20s and 30s, he had to spend it running from cave to cave and desert to desert. So once you live like that as a fugitive, you always looking behind your shoulder, waiting for the other shoe to drop, or in the biblical days, I guess the other sandal to drop. So it was very uncertain times. But in the uncertainty of those times, David learned to depend on the Lord. He learned to find strength in the Lord. And we have examples of that in the Bible. For example, when his family was captured and taken hostage, and his men's family were taken captive and hostages. His men were so angry that they wanted to kill David, but the Bible says that David leaned on the Lord. He put his strength and he put his trust in the Lord. So we're seeing that this is a running theme in the life of David, that he placed his trust in the Lord. He placed his trust in God. And we see how this psalm starts out. It says, I love you, Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock. Now, mind you, this is being written, or as we read, that David spoke these words of this song the day the Lord rescued him. So this is like right after the fact that he was going through hardship and trials. It's nice to do so after the fact. It's a little difficult to do it while you're going through it, while you're going through a hard situation. And David lived a very hard life in his youth. He went through a lot of stuff. And you question those kind of things because you're like, well, isn't following God supposed to be like the easy stuff? Isn't that supposed to be, God's supposed to take care of you? Why would he allow difficulties and hardships and trials to go through the people that he loves? Why would he permit pain and suffering for those who he loves? I mean, isn't he supposed to take care of us? Isn't he supposed to make sure that everything goes well? And then you have to question other things like, well, am I living a holy life? Am I being prepared for a walking that is worthy of the Lord? We're going to get into that. So David was a man that had to learn to depend on God. He was a man that had to put his trust in God. So he had no other choice. He didn't have a choice but to seek God because he was stripped from everything else. He used to live in the palace. He was buddies with the king's son. He even married the king's daughter. He was hooked up. He was, living his best life. And then all of a sudden the king started developing these jealousies against him, and he had to run away. So the comfortable life that he knew he no longer had. Now he has to live in deserts. He has to live in caves. He has to live hidden from everybody because everybody was ratting him out to the king for not doing anything. He didn't do anything. Saul was simply jealous of David because God was with David, and Saul was no longer in communion with God, and God no longer talked to him. So Saul was jealous of David and wanted to kill him. Well, we know there's also something more spiritually deep going on in the background, but nonetheless, David had no choice but to trust in God. He had no choice but to lean on God. So we jump now to verse 13. The Lord thundered from heaven. The Most High made his voice heard. He shot his arrows and scattered them. He hurled lightning bolts and routed them. The depths of the sea became visible. The foundation of the world were exposed at your rebuke, Lord, at the blast of the breath of your nostrils. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He pulled me out of deep water. He rescued me from my powerful enemy and from those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my support. He brought me out of the spacious place to a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. David is here describing the moment God rose up and defended him publicly in a way that it was no longer, there was no ifs or buts about it. We started reading on verse 13 that the Lord thundered from heaven, the Most High made his voice heard. So God has declared victory for David's life. Why am I speaking about this? Why am I all of a sudden talking about God equipping men for battle? When you learn how to lean on the Lord and not on your understanding, when you deposit your full trust in the Lord, and mind you, this only happens when you're broken. In the good times, it's easy to say, oh, I trust the Lord. Yeah, he's my strength. He's my this, he's my that. And it's all good, hunky dory, all good. You feel great. It's wonderful. But what happens when you are in darkness? You have no resources. You have nothing to lean on. You try to, numb yourself off with whatever option you had available. That's not working anymore. You can't ignore the problem anymore. And you're really trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you only are surrounded with darkness, or only surrounded by just layers upon layers upon layers of darkness, and you can't see the light of day anymore. What are you going to do? What are you prepared to do? Well, one option is to lay down and just accept your faith, or to learn how to trust in the Lord. And I say this like this: learning how to trust in the Lord, learning to give God trust, because this is not something that is just natively learned. It is something that it's something that you will learn with time, to depend on the Lord, to depend on his strength, to depend on what he has done for us. So you have to learn to depend on the Lord, to depend on his strength, to depend on him, that he will take care of you. Easier said than done, because it requires letting go. I'm going to read, jumping now ahead to Matthew 11:28 to 30. And it says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I am lowly and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. This is Jesus talking, by the way. Jesus is telling us to come to him, all who are weary and burdened. I think that immediately qualifies the entire planet. If you're an adult, that pretty much you're there, whether you like it or not. But he's giving the open invitation to come to him. Now he says, I will give you rest. And so far so good, right? So then we read verse 29, take my yoke. Wait a minute. We were talking about resting, right? I will give you rest. And then he said, take my yoke. You know what a yoke is. They had to put giant yokes on the backs of two bulls. So it's a burden. It's something that goes on top. So it says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I am lowly and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Wait a minute, I thought resting was resting. Well, not according to Jesus. According to Jesus, the only way you really truly rest and find rest for your soul is putting his yoke upon you and learning from him. And then he finishes off saying, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I don't get it, you might say. Like, what is this? What do you mean my yoke is easy and my burden is light? Well, what is easy and light is that if we do what he says, and this is what cost me to learn this thing, what I'm just going to tell you right now. If you just learn to shut up your thoughts, your opinions, and submit yourself to the will of God, submit yourself to his will, then everything will be fine. You will be okay. You will be okay. All of us will be fine if we submit. Now, when I mean fine, I'm not saying you won't have any problems. I'm not saying you won't have difficulties. I'm not saying that you won't have things that won't happen. Things are going to continue to happen because guess what? If you're alive, that's the price you pay for being alive. You have issues, you have problems. But let's go back to Psalm 18 and let's keep reading on verse 20. We left off on 19. We're going to go and continue on verse 20. The Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness. He repaid me according to the cleanness of my hands. For I have kept the ways of the Lord and have not turned away from my God to wickedness. Indeed, I let all his ordinances guide me, statutes. I was blameless towards him and kept myself from my iniquity. So the Lord repaid me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanliness or cleanness of my hands in his sight. So it seems that David applied what Jesus said, that he put on the yoke. The yoke is obedience. The yoke is obedience to God. That means you submit to God's will. Is submitting to God's will easy? Not when we're full of ourselves, not when we have an opinion that we should value. And the thing that cost me the most to learn and walk in this ways of the Lord is that, and God, I have no opinion, I have no say. I have to submit to him, and therefore, if I obey him, if I am faithful to him, then he will bless me, but not in the bless that some people think. Because immediately you hear the word blessed, people think like, oh, money, oh, prosperity. We have a very materialistic view of what prosperity or blessing is. That's just stuff. Stuff can be lost and burned or gained. That's not it. The prosperity is the prosperity of our souls, is to be safe in the most deepest corners of our inner being, to be fully restored, to be fully made whole, and know that although you've been through stuff, God has your back. He's taking care of you. So when you have someone that has made a vow to just take care of you no matter what, then you will do whatever is in your power to make sure that he takes care of you, that you will not resist what he's doing. So it took me the longest time to get to that point. But now we're going to go to the part that I wanted to talk about, and which is we're actually going to get into now, because all this was an introduction, and it's necessary because we can't go from one place to another until we went through all this. We have to understand that we have to submit to God and take up his yoke so that he can come in and fight for us, and not just only then fight for us, then we have to learn to fight back. We're going to jump now to verse 28 and we'll continue from there. Lord, you light my lamp. My God illuminates my darkness. With you, I can attack a barricade, and with my God, I can leap over a wall. Verse 30. God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is pure. He is a shield to all who take refuge in him. For who is God besides the Lord? And who is a rock? Only our God. God, he clothes me with strength and makes my way perfect. Let me make an emphasis on that 32 again. That's verse 32. God, he clothes me with strength and makes my way perfect. I always go back to this and I'll repeat it again. When Peter walked on water, when he asked Jesus, Lord, if it's you, can I go to you? And Jesus was like, come. Was it Peter through his will? Was it his sheer willpower that made him walk on water? Or was his obedience from the word that because he asked for a word, he's like, if it's you, may I walk on water? And Jesus was like, come, showing that it is the power of God that makes us do the impossible. And he makes our ways perfect. He gives us the strength. Let's continue on verse 33. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer, and he sets me securely on the heights. Now here's the emphasis. He trains my hands for war. My arms can bend a bow of bronze. You have given me the shield of your salvation. Your right hand upholds me, and your humility exalts me. You make a spacious place beneath me for my steps, and my ankles do not give away. He trains my hands for war. Verse 34. My arms can bend a bow of bronze. That is supernatural strength. Why is David all of a sudden equating things to war? Well, he was fighting, but this perfectly fits for our Christian living now. Why? Because we are in a time of spiritual warfare. Whether you are in agreement with that kind of stuff or not, we live in a time of spiritual warfare. And if you do not equip yourself with God, if you do not clothe yourself in his strength and his perfect ways and let him guide you and let him train you and capacitate you, you are going to be food for the enemy. He's going to feed on you and he's going to destroy you. He's going to make an example out of you. But let's continue reading on verse 37 so you can see at what level David took this. I pursue my enemies and overtake them. I do not turn back until they are wiped out. I crush them, and they cannot get up. They fall beneath my feet. You have clothed me with the strength for battle. You subdue my adversaries beneath me. You have made my enemies retreat before me. I annihilate those who hate me. They cry for help, but there is no one to save them. They cry to the Lord, but he does not answer them. I pulverize them like dust before the wind. I trample them like mud in the streets. Now, let's not equate this to people because our battle is not against flesh and blood. But those things that used to overtake us in the past, I don't know, put the name of your vice, whatever it is. If you submit yourself to God and you walk in his ways and you allow the training of God by putting the yoke on to continue in your life, then you will pursue those enemies that used to manhandle you, and you will pursue them and overtake them. You will crush them. You will pulverize them. You will annihilate them. Why? Because you are no longer fighting in your strength. You're fighting in the strength of the Lord. There's a difference. Because when we try to fight in our own strength, we will fail. But we do not lean on our own strength. We do not lean on our own intellect, and we do not lean on our own understanding. We lean on the power and the strength of the Lord. So put on the yoke of God, put on the yoke of Jesus, and let him train your hands for war. Because we are at war. If you're a believer, we are at war. We are at war against the forces of the enemy. We are at war with our own lust, our own flesh, our own things that do not allow us to continue. So yes, we are at war. So let us continue fighting the good fight of faith, fighting that which we need to fight, and let's submit ourselves to God. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Hope these words were a blessing to you, and God bless you all.